My name is Matt Tanner, I'm Battalion Chief of Vidalia Fire Department. I'm also the EMS Supervisor. I'm going to show you today, we got some new equipment in, and I think it's going to increase our survivability rate of immediate cardiac arrest and in our community. I think it's going to be a great asset to the department. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it and show you how it works. This piece of equipment is called a Zoll AutoPulse. It's manufactured by the Zoll Corporation. They are a company that supplies EMS equipment and hospital equipment. They've been in business for a lot of years, and I think they made the first AED, if I'm not mistaken, which is an automated external defibrillator. That most people see, you know, they show AEDs everywhere. It's the thing that anybody can go slap on you that tells you to start CPR, and it also automatically shock a patient if they need it. That was one of the biggest increases in cardiac arrest survivals that has been. It's just easy to operate. Anybody can do it. You hook it up and it'll tell you what to do. It's just like the paddles you see on TV where they rub them together and put it on the patient and shock them, except this is for the lay person. The AED is. This is what we're going to use in conjunction with the AED. This is a automatic compression device. It does the CPR compressions for you. For years, you've seen people, you know, where they do on TV, they have a person, you know, a mannequin here, and, you know, they got their hands on their chest and they're doing chest compressions. Well, this is to circulate the blood through the body, and also you give wrist or mouth to mouth. We don't do mouth to mouth. We use a bag valve mask, where it takes multiple people to do effective CPR. One's usually doing the bag. You got one or two doing compressions and swapping out with somebody else is very tiresome over a long period of time. I'm gonna move this out of the way so I can show you the device. This has changed the world of CPR in a lot of ways, because now instead of doing the heel of the hand to the sternum of the chest, that's very traumatic to the body. Most times it does end up fracturing the cartilage in the sternum. But the new thing with this is this band. It's called the Life Band. This is actually a load distributing band. It distributes that force or that compression over a large area, or large surface area of the chest, so it doesn't have that one point of impact. This device gives effective CPR or effective compressions every compression. It doesn't have a human, it doesn't have the human factor in it. Where when we're doing CPR, if we start getting tired, our compressions become less effective. If we're moving the patient, it interrupts flow time, or the time that you're doing compressions and flowing blood through the body. This is made to decrease the no flow time. So you're doing more compressions more of the time. The unit's pretty simple to operate. It's preset from the factory with AHA guidelines to do 30 compressions and give you time for 2 breaths. That goes along with AHA CPR guidelines. Once we got this unit and started doing in-service training, once you see it in action, you can really understand the effectiveness it would have. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the mannequin and show you a little bit about it, how quick it is to deploy. When we have CPR, when we do CPR with somebody for spontaneous cardiac arrest, we usually carry in a long spine board to put them on, to have a hard surface to do the compressions on, because you got to have a stable background. If they're on a bed or something like that, you got to move the patient onto the floor, and then we still put them on the long spine board. With this, we eliminate a 6-foot long spine board. We can just use this and a sheet or a soft stretcher or something to move the patient. Well, this is still going to do compressions while we're moving the patient, where we could not normally. It would interrupt the compression time. So to operate this thing, basically the thing is you just turn it on and it's ready to go. It runs a full diagnostic check when you turn it on, and within a second or two, it's ready to be deployed. Once we go into a room and determine a patient is unresponsive and pulseless, we'll try to see if they're responsive by doing a sternal rub and trying to speak to the patient. If they don't answer, we'll check the pulse. If they're found to be pulseless, we'll start CPR. And the easiest thing to do is set the patient up. It'll take 2 people to set the patient up, cut the clothes off. And that's recommended with the AutoPulse to bear the torso of the patient. It helps to keep from sliding. It also helps the life band from sliding up and down the patient's chest. It's pretty simple. On the AutoPulse, it gives you a diagram on how to lay the patient. You can see their head this way with a pillow, their body this way. This is a sensor bar that tells the band or the machine how far to compress on the patient. It's going to do a 20% of the chest cavity compression, or the thoracic cavity. So once we set the patient up, we slide the AutoPulse under them on the floor and just lay the patient back down. Once you attach the AED, you're going to put your AED pads on the sternum and apex. Then you attach this right over the top of the AED pads. Just make sure it's lined up. And all you do is hit start. And it's going to size the patient. It'll size up to about a 300-pound patient. And then it automatically starts doing compressions. This frees up a person, a 2-person ambulance team can get so much more done operating this AutoPulse than they can doing conventional manual CPR. Now there's time to actually, once you get them on this, that's going to tell you to ventilate. That's the 30 compressions, give you 3 seconds to do 2 ventilations. I'm going to pause it for a second. Once the AED's on them, while you're doing compressions, the only time you have to stop it, it'll stop on its own to ventilate. You'll have to pause it again for your AED to analyze the rhythm. It's got an alarms on it to tell you at 10 seconds, it'll beep, it'll say that you're not doing compressions, to hurry up and do whatever you're doing to resume compressions. That's what they're trying to eliminate, is the no flow time, and you hear it beeping again. You pause it to analyze your rhythm with the AED. Then as soon as you finish analyzing, you can resume compressions. This unit is just going to make our CPR much more effective. It should raise our survivability rate drastically. Zoll has done studies where patients that have a return of spontaneous pulse or circulation have a much higher survivability rate to hospital discharge with this unit than they do with manual CPR. I think it's increased by about 75%. Zoll has done studies where, I think this was an animal study, where the AutoPulse supplied 130% of pre-arrest blood flow to the heart and brain, where manual CPR only supplies about 30% of pre-arrest blood flow to the heart and brain. Out of patients with return of spontaneous pulse, the studies that Zoll has done has shown that the increase or survivability rate to hospital discharge goes from about 3% with manual CPR up to almost 10% with the AutoPulse. So that's about, that's a huge increase in our world. Anytime you get a save from somebody that suffers sudden cardiac arrest, it's a good thing. And there's been more people documented being saved with the AutoPulse because of the less traumatic injury or less traumatic to the thoracic cavity, the more effective compressions, the non-stopping of the compressions through transport to the ambulance, into the ER, and through transport from the scene to the hospital. It's hard to do effective CPR in the back of an ambulance when they're moving. It doesn't matter if you're moving or not. you can actually do CPR and set the patient up to about 45-degree angle while you're moving them, and it'll still do effective CPR. I, as the EMS supervisor, am excited to get this piece of equipment on our ambulance and get it out in the community and use it. I don't like to use it, but I'm glad we have it to use it. I think it'll be a great asset to the department.
Good. Can you activate it again? Let me get a close-up shot of it.
Yeah.
Of it working. And you may want to get a picture of it with the.
No, okay. Let me get one picture of you, and it doesn't have to be moving, because I want to use it as our static shot on the YouTube.
Okay.
You answered the questions I was going to ask about the survivability rate. Those were the ones that really stood out to me the other day. All right, I'm going to get you to stand. I'm going to get you to stand, stand like you were, and then just kind of look up, so this won't be so prevalent, because what I'm going to do is just take it, I know. Okay, good. You didn't cheese smile, you did good. You did.